Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the backyard getting Bertha remounted with all of her fittings and finishes to make sure that she's ready to be able to fight. I am currently in my toasty warm clothes because Brisbane is experiencing about 10-degree temperatures, and for Brisbaneites, that's freezing cold. So, unfortunately, you get to deal with me in my dressing gown, but we're going to get onto it right now. Alright, so we've collected everything together that we need. So in order to do this, if you remember from our sword anatomy video, we have our sword with its tang, the crossguard, the pommel, the handle. So these are all of the bits that go together with the sword. The tools that we're going to need is something to hammer onto so that we don't damage the top of the pommel, a ball peen hammer. This is what we're going to use to hammer the tang down. Something else, these are a pair of vice grips that aren't very good. They're a bit dodgy, a bit broken, they're quite old. So I'm going to use them as part of the hammering as well. And lastly is a torch, so that we can heat up the tang, so that we can then peen down the tang to hold it all together. Let's do this! Oh, and of course, the last thing we need is a vice. So this vice is an old one of mine. It doesn't really work very well, but I've polished it up a little bit just so that we can use it. I've actually figured out what's wrong with it, so I'm going to repair it, which is great, because it's always better if we can repair old tools rather than buy new ones. Oh, and one of my chickens has got out. So the first thing we need to do is we need to clamp the sword, and as you can see, I've covered the jaws of the clamp with a cloth, with a bit of leather behind there as well to help protect it, to protect the polish that we've put on there. We grip it in nice and tight. There we go. Now I've clamped it over the leg of the table because I'm going to be hitting this with a hammer. And so what you want to do is have it not flex as much as possible. It would be better if I could clamp it up higher, but of course all the handle and crossguard's going to be in the way there. Okay, so the steps are actually quite simple. We lower the crossguard on, make sure you've got it on the right way. This one doesn't have a particularly right or wrong way, because the crossguard, of course, being mass-produced, the crossguard's quite loose on here. If you were making this yourself, if you were making one of these crossguards, you wouldn't have this deep cut out here, and you would also fit this crossguard much tighter on here, which I could do by heating this up and reducing the size or spreading the tang out, but given that I'm going to be mostly using this in school shows and for fighting, this will be satisfactory. Next goes on the handle. Alright, now as you can see, the handle's not fitting particularly tightly either. I need to produce a new handle, but again, I need to get this sword working so that I can start fighting again. So we're going to use this handle for now. Drop on the pommel here. Okay. Drop on this flange to protect the pommel a little bit, and then we're going to hammer that down nice and tight. Okay, so what we're looking for is a nice tight fit where the crossguard doesn't wiggle like this. And it seems I've put the handle on the wrong way. Ah, yeah, that's a better fit. So the next thing we're going to do involves the fire. Now that this is on nice and tight, the crossguard is not rattling, which is great because I hate a rattling crossguard, and we're going to make that red hot now. There we have it, all polished up. You can see the pommels going a little bit darker because of the heat. and you can see I haven't got great hammer control at the moment. Part of that's because it's freezing, part of that is because I haven't done this in so long. Just letting it cool a little bit, but I've got to get it cooled down quickly because the wooden part of the handle has started to smolder a bit, smoke a bit, which means the heat traveled down through. I think having a more powerful torch would have been a bit better to get that tang a little bit hotter and also reducing the amount of tang. But there you have it. That is how a sword is held together. Now, she's ready to use. So much nicer. There's a little bit of rattle still. Oh, there's a lot of rattle. Everything slipped while I was hammering it. So as you can see, hasn't been fixed, and that's the main thing I was trying to fix. So let's try this again. Alright guys, so some serious lessons to be learned from that. One, make sure it's seated properly before you start hammering down. I thought I had, but as soon as I started hammering it started moving apart. Two, make sure you reduce the amount of tang that you leave exposed. You can see there I've got this big ugly mess here that needs a lot of cleanup now. I'm going to still put the video online because the basics of this is exactly how you do it. You heat up the tang, you hammer it down, this becomes one giant rivet which holds all of this together. But I will be addressing that problem, and there's still a little tiny bit of rattle there, so I'll address that problem later. But overall, I'm quite happy with this. That was my first time since I was about 16 since I've done that, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Anyways, this has been Medieval Matt. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you're okay with the slovenly clothes because just like you, I've been stuck at home on the couch a fair bit. So yeah, Bertha is ready to go. Phoenix boys, I'm ready to fight again.